else comes in and they have anxiety or anger or depression, they're feeling that energy, and energy just travels.
You know, Jody, there's something that came to mind when you all were talking earlier about the stress in the workplace, and Tatenda was talking about being allowed to set up a room, and of course you've got the place of peace. Now I'm thinking, as we know, a lot of people are choosing not to go back to work because once they had the opportunity to work from home, they realized they didn't like being in that stressful environment. They didn't like the feeling of somebody looking over your shoulder all the time, always being reprimanded. They just didn't like working in that environment. And a lot of people who've quit jobs, when they were told, well, okay, now it's time to come back to the office, and they were like, nah, I don't want to do that again. So, this is what I'm thinking. And you've got it set up already with the place of peace. I'm thinking that every company really needs to offer that. They need to offer a place where you can de-stress. They need to think in terms of the emotional well-being of the employees, because the way we've been running businesses is the idea of the boss that can fire you. And so everybody's always on edge, worrying about if they make a little mistake, they'll lose their job and their livelihood. That mindset has to end. We have to end the way we even think about business. And it has to be the idea of, we want this workplace to be welcoming, to be enjoyable, to be relaxing. And if you have a moment of stress, we're going to give you a time to take a break and relax and reset and enjoy some music, and then you can come back to work better.
Since 2015. That's been my concept, that people, we need to care about our employees.
That's what's been missing in all of these industries. And so that's how come once people got away from it, they realized they didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not even working. The money's not working.
So Naima, I taught the team about how to protect their energy, right? So Dustin, I put in Tatenda, I finally put together like a course on how to protect your energy, especially for people in I teach mostly psychologists and therapists and so forth, and how to clear their energy. Because the reason people don't want to go back to work, and they don't even like really get it, they're feeling the energy from all these people. The happiness is fine. It's when somebody else comes in and they have anxiety or anger or depression, they're feeling that energy, and energy just travels.
It does.
Right? Doesn't never go away. You can only shift it. So I teach people now how to shift it. And that's why people don't want to go back to work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of posts that I've seen across social media are exactly in line with what you guys are saying. People are starting to not really care so much about the pizza parties and the box of candies that are usually dropped off in staff rooms and break rooms. And they're saying, we want you guys to really take care of us and make sure that mentally we're doing okay if we're going to be able to keep up the level of productivity that you guys want us to keep up. And I work in healthcare, so that's in healthcare, but I think it's across the board. People want more meaningful interventions for them by management or higher ups to be able to say, how are you supporting us mentally? What are you doing? And I think if they invested a little bit more time into establishing, like what Jody said, essential oils that can be easily utilized on shift without taking away from time, like that'll do wonders. I mean, everybody likes pizza, but at some point it's just like, let's move on from the frivolous stuff and give us things that actually help. And just to go back a little bit to the question before this one, when we talked about addressing childhood traumas from a more like clinical point of view, right? I think the first thing when somebody walks into my office and brings up the fact that they have childhood trauma or childhood traumatic events that they need addressed, usually the first thing I do is saying, let's hear it. Like I give them the opportunity to explicitly explain, what happened. And that's my way of saying, I validate the experiences that you had. And that's my way of saying, I want you to get comfortable talking about them and not put them on this pedestal where you don't address them and you just kind of walk around them. Like, feel free addressing them and let's hear them.
Well, are they on a pedestal or even they under the rug, right?
Under the rug, yep. Yep. And then the next thing is um, the plan. Like, why exactly do you want this addressed? So that goes into, what do you feel like these childhood events affect today in your life? So people might not notice it, but sometimes, like, the inability to trust a spouse can come from the inability, can stem from an inability to trust your parents, or maybe you had a dad who walked out on the whole family when finances were tough. So now you're, not as financially trusting with the person that you're with, or a whole issue of numbers. So it's
Right.
like,
The list just keeps going on, right?
yep, yep.
And that's what I'm trying to get people to know. Like, it's not your husband, or it's not your wife.
Yeah.
Most-
Look at beyond
Look
what
at
happened.
you and where you grew up.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then when we get to acknowledging the fact that, okay, these things actually do play a part in how I function from day to day. The first step to addressing anything is mindfulness. How can you recognize yourself when you start to act on this impulse that you know is not being driven by anything that's in your current relationship or current situation? That requires a certain level of self-honesty, calling yourself out. Sometimes I act this way because of things that have happened in my past. It's not who I'm trying to stay as, it's not who I'm trying to become, it's something that I'm working on. And then we go into, like, the skills through CBT, DBT, to kind of work on cognitively changing the behaviors that are problematic. So that was just
Have
my
you
tidbit.
guys ever used this, Tatenda? Because it works wonders. It has worked wonders for me. I got it when I was in therapy, and I bought one for my home, and now I use it as part of the place of peace. It's the BAUD, and it's sound frequency, right? And if you're sound sensitive, you just put it at your neck or on your thigh, because it's a vibration, and it does a reset on the neural network of the brain in 20 seconds, or excuse me, 20 minutes. 20 seconds would be awesome.
Maybe one day in the future.
Yeah, but it does a reset on the neural network of that particular trauma, and you activate it by writing about it, or if it's pain, you can just initiate that pain if it's walking or whatever, or what have you. And I mean, you can also do it with humming, right? Hum it through. But have you ever looked at
No.
something like that?
No, I haven't used the frequency. You said it's called a BARD?
A BAUD. I'll send you the information on it.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
flipping amazing, and it worked so well for me in therapy for 4 years that as soon as I was as soon as I got off of disability, which was 3.5 years later, on year 4, I bought one for my home. And then year 6 or 7, I called the founder or the creator, Dr. Frank Lawlis, and basically it took a year, but begged him to let me to be his distributor. Well, because it did a huge impact.
Yeah. But this is another thing too. Like, my training as a nurse practitioner is which is not bad. It's just the way it is. But it's primarily medication focused, right? So somebody walks into an office and they say, "I've been having a hard time doing this." My training automatically says, assess them and see what's going on, and then see what you can come up with the diagnosis, and then what's the treatment for that diagnosis. Obviously, it says a combination of psychotherapy and medications is going to give you the best result. But I actually have to teach myself what in school, Dustin, you might know this. They call them CAM, complement.
Yes.
That's what
Complementary alternative therapy. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I am.
So I have to learn to be like, okay, wait a minute, how about CBD instead of Prozac? Or have you tried, especially if you get a patient who comes in and they go, I haven't had any good experiences on medications. Then it's really like, okay, we got to think outside the box here. What exists out there that can help them? And sometimes it's not really far-fetched. It's just like, well, how active are you? How much do you exercise? How much do you do self-care? And how do you walk?
How many Twinkies are you eating?
Yeah.